Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Venus and today I'm talking about my top 10 favorite fantasy series of all time. For now. I mostly read fantasy and horror. I've already done my top 10 favorite horror books. If you haven't checked that out, please check that out. It is linked above. But I really wanted to do a top 10 fantasy series video as well because this year I'm really concentrating on finishing fantasy series, starting series that have been on my TBR for quite a while. So I know this list is definitely going to change at some point, but I really wanted to have a foundation. Also, this is a recommendation list as well because I loved all of these. Obviously, they're my top 10. So if you are looking to read some fantasy, hopefully you will check out some of these also. So this list has no repeat authors. I do have 2 duologies on here and 2 are young adult book series as well. These are also series that have been completed by the author or are in progress and I am up to date with. I do want to give honorable mention to The Empire of the Wolf by Richard Swan. This definitely would have been on my top 10, but I did just finish the 3rd book that came out in the series recently, and it wasn't my favorite, unfortunately, but I still think it's a very solid fantasy trilogy, so I definitely wanted to mention it. I'm just going to be holding up the first book in each series so that I'm not holding up multiple books at once. Coming in at number 10 is The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. I know the hardcore fantasy readers are rolling their eyes right now, but I absolutely love this series. I've read it 3 times. It's one of the series that really got me into searching for more fantasy, so I had to put it on this list. It is urban fantasy. It's young adult. It's also paranormal. We are following Clary. She is a teenager, I believe like 16 or 17, and while she is at like a club, I think it's a club or like a rave or something, she discovers that she's seeing things that other people can't see. Clary discovers that there are shadow hunters who protects humans, also known as mundanes in this world, from supernatural entities like demons, werewolves, vampires, there's fairies, angels, all kinds of supernatural creatures. Yes, there is a weird love triangle, but it's fine. Clary also finds out she has some ties to these shadow hunters and we're following her on a search to find her mother who has gone missing, I'll say. The world building is very easy to follow. There's humor in it. There's, like I said, all kinds of supernatural beings. One of my favorite is a warlock. He's bisexual and he's absolutely hilarious. There are some creepy elements, still scenes that I remember to this day, and I just really enjoyed this series. I have not read the prequel, The Infernal Devices, not yet, but I do have it on my TBR for this year. I think this is a great beginner fantasy series. If you don't mind young adult, definitely check it out. And coming in at number 9 is the Shepherd King duology by Rachel Gillig. This is also young adult. It is gothic. It has really creepy autumnal vibes. In this world, we are following Elspeth Spindle. She is living in a kingdom called Blunder that is constantly covered in mist. The author does a fantastic job of describing this very gray and dreary kingdom. We are following Elspeth and we find out that she has this monster living inside of her head named the Nightmare. You have no idea if he is an ally or an enemy. He's very evasive when she tries to ask him questions and she keeps him hidden. She doesn't talk about him to anyone else, and she also has magic of her own that she has to keep quiet because in this world, if anyone has magic or is born with magic showing any kind of magical abilities, they are killed. There are 12 Providence cards that if the person that has this card actually can do magic, depending on the card that they own. There's different kinds. One that can get into people's minds, read your mind. One that will make you beautiful and have everyone adore you. And the flip side of having these cards is that if you use them too much, you will begin to get physical or emotional harm from them. If all 12 of these Providence cards are collected, then the kingdom can remove the mist that is constantly over this world. One evening, Elspeth is on her way home. She's near the forest and she runs into an undercover highwayman. And then she ends up getting involved in this political plot against the king to try to find all 12 of these cards. The first book we are mostly just following in Elspeth's point of view, and then the second 2 books we do get 2 more POVs, and I just love these stories. I read them back to back. I thought the writing was very well done. There is a romance subplot in both of the books that I didn't mind at all. I thought it was very well done. And yeah, this is definitely a new favorite of mine, so check it out if you're interested. Coming in at number 8 is the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo, and I ate this series up. In this series, we are following Alex Stern. She has had a very traumatic background. She ended up being a sole survivor in a multiple homicide, and while she's recovering in the hospital, she is offered a all-expense paid free ride to Yale if in exchange she will use her special abilities, I won't say what they are, to monitor the secret societies at Yale. Very cultish-like things are happening. Very dark themes are explored in this. The first book has a murder mystery that Alex is helping to solve, and it just is very atmospheric. I love the setting in Yale. It gets very, very dark. The second book has elements of hell mixed into it, and I love them so far. This one is a series that is in progress. There's only 2 books released so far. I don't know if we have a release date for the 3rd book, but I can't wait to continue on with this and see where it goes. And coming in at number 7 is the Shadow of the Leviathan series by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a brand new series that immediately jumped onto my top 10 list. I absolutely loved this world so much and the characters. It's set in a world with Leviathans. It's got these Sherlock Holmes and Watson vibes, and it's just such a fun read. The 2 main characters, Anna and Din, are absolutely hilarious together. Their banter is top-notch. Anna is a brilliant detective in this world. She has very odd ways of solving crimes. She literally stays indoors, wears a blindfold, and sends out her assistant detective or assistant investigator, Din, to be her eyes and ears. And he brings back all of the information for her to dissect. And he has a magical ability that allows him to basically have a photographic memory. In this first book, we are trying to figure out how an Imperial officer has been found dead with a tree growing out of his chest. Anna pieces together all of the clues that Din brings back to her and finds out that there is not only just this murder that's happened, but there's multiple murders tied together. And you go through the story of her and Din trying to figure out what's going on, who's involved, in addition to these mysterious Leviathans that come at different seasons that could potentially just take out the entire empire if they get past the seawall. So you're learning about how those things are managed in this empire as well, and it's just a really cool read. I loved it so much. The characters, like I said, were so funny. Din is super laid back, has a little bit of anxiety going on. He's very young, and Anna's over the top, just has very weird mannerisms, and she interviews people very bluntly, and Din is always the go-between buffer between her and people she's investigating. And it was just a very entertaining read for me. So I, again, am very much looking forward to where this series goes. This is the first book, and it just came out, so I definitely recommend you check this one out. Coming in at number 6 is Villains by V.E. Schwab. This is another duology and urban fantasy, and I was obsessed when I read these 2 books. This duology has superhero, comic book vibes, and I'd never read anything like that before, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing to me. We are following Eli and Victor, and they both are very intelligent college students. They're roommates, and they both have this arrogance to them where they feel like they're smarter than everyone else, and they become very interested in researching the effects of adrenaline and near-death experiences because they think that when people have these experiences, they somehow can get supernatural abilities. When one of their experiments goes horribly wrong, they end up becoming arch enemies. And jump ahead 10 years later, Victor is getting out of prison, and he is determined to find Eli and take him out. And it is just back and forth of them trying to control one another and kill one another, and then you've got all these amazing side characters, and I mean, it is cinematic, it's action-packed, it is so well written, and I need to do a reread soon because it's been a couple years, but I absolutely had to put this on this list. It's a little sci-fi as well, but it's still absolutely amazing, and I do, like I said, consider this urban fantasy. Now we are entering my top 5 favorite fantasy series of all time, and coming in at number 5 is the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne. This so far only has 2 books out, but they're phenomenal. The cover alone is absolutely stunning. So this is a Norse-inspired high fantasy series, and loved every second of it. I never even thought that I would be interested in Norse mythology, but it's very much interweaved throughout the story. The descriptions of the places and the setting is so beautifully done. I was like imagining all these fjords as they're described, and got a lot of like Viking vibes as well. So in this world, we have many, many gods that basically warred against each other and brought themselves to extinction, and many, many years later, their bones, if found, can be very powerful. In the first book, we are following 3 POVs. There is very strong female characters in it that I absolutely adore. There's stories of vengeance, there's found family, there's magic, there's warring between gods that start to happen. The writing is just so well done. There's a couple twists that I did not see coming, and I can't wait to continue on with this series. So like I said, there are 2 books out right now. It's in progress, and I really look forward to when the 3rd book comes out. If you are a fan of The Godfather or Goodfellas, American Gangster, Peaky Blinders, anything with like gangsters, mobsters, drug dealers, anything like that, then you will definitely love Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. This is coming in at number 4 for me, and I'm gonna repeat this saying multiple times, but I absolutely adored this trilogy. I'm not gonna lie, the first book, Jade City, I wasn't completely hooked. I was interested, but I didn't really like the characters, and I really couldn't see where this was going. But by the 2nd book, it was fantastic, and by the 3rd book, I mean, this is a series that just gradually gets better. 100%. The 3rd book, you are following this family over decades, and it was really, really cool to have such a long time span in this series. This is an Asian-inspired mafia type series about 4 siblings battling rival clans over jade. I tried to figure out how to explain jade in my own words, but the author's website has a much better explanation of it, so I'm just gonna read what jade is from the words of Fonda Lee herself. Jade is the lifeblood of the island of Kekon. It has been mined, traded, stolen, and killed for, and for centuries, honorable greenbone warriors like the Call family have used it to enhance their magical abilities and defend the island from foreign invasion. Now, the war is over, and a new generation of Calls vies for control over Kekon's bustling capital city. They care about nothing but protecting their own, cornering the jade market, and defending the districts under their protection. Ancient tradition has little place in this rapidly changing nation. When a powerful new drug emerges that lets anyone, even foreigners, wield jade, the simmering tension between the Calls and the rival family erupts into open violence. The outcome of this clan war will determine the fate of all Greenbones, from their grandest patriarch to the lowliest motorcycle runner on the streets, and of Kekon itself. Jade City begins an epic tale of family honor and those who live and die by the ancient laws of jade and blood. So this series has smuggling, drug addicts, martial arts fighting, family loyalty, just all the things you would love in a good mafia story, and it's brilliantly done. It really, really is. I just grew so attached to the Call family and the siblings and their love for each other, and even when they were, you know, arguing and having rough times, it was still such a great, great time. And I'll never forget, there's this one character in this series, I don't even remember his name, but he makes it through all 3 books, and he is like the slimiest rat. The things that he does and how he gets out every single time is just mind-blowing to me. But I just thought that the way that his character was written was brilliant. So I highly recommend this story, especially if you're into those things that I mentioned before. So yep, number 4, The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. And coming in at number 3 is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is the first trilogy in the epic Realm of the Elderlings masterpiece that Robin Hobb has put together. There are 16 books in this entire fantasy world, and I've only gotten through the first 3, but it was amazing. Absolutely fantastic. When you hear people talk about the amazing writing of Robin Hobb and her prose, they are 100% accurate. So in this series, we are following Fitz Chivalry Farseer, also known as Fitz. He is an illegitimate son of the prince in this world, and he is dropped off on the king's doorstep and taken in and basically raised by the stable master and then taken in by the king to become a royal assassin. Fitz has a secret ability that he has to hide because if people found out of this ability, he would essentially be murdered. He is seen as a threat to the crown. One of the princes is one of those characters that you want to jump through the book and throat punch. And when I say assassin, don't picture like some John Wick super action scenes going on. This is a very slow burn. Robin Hobb could literally write 20 pages about Fitz going down to the kitchen to eat breakfast, and it would be a masterpiece. Just the simplest things and actions of you going through the day and the life of Fitz is absolutely amazing. And then these characters are done so well. There's some of them where you don't know if Fitz should trust them, if they are actually helping Fitz, if they have his back, or if they're going to end up backstabbing him. You have no idea because the way that it's written, it's just a masterpiece. I absolutely loved this series. I can't wait to continue on in the realm of the Elderlings, and I'm hoping to do that this year, but as of now, this is absolutely in my top 10. Okay, we are at the top 2 of my favorite fantasy series of all time. If you've been around my channel for a while, you might know who these top 2 are. I battled back and forth on who I wanted to be number 1. It's still very hard to choose, but I think I have come down with who is number 2. And that is going to be the First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Absolutely brilliant trilogy. I loved these characters and this world and the humor and all the things. So this is grimdark fantasy, which I have quickly discovered is my favorite subgenre of fantasy. First Law Trilogy is set in a world where the North, the Gurkish, and the Union are all fighting. We are following multiple POVs throughout the trilogy. There is sorcery, there's political maneuvering, there's like these cannibal type creatures, and also like orc-like creatures. There's a lot going on, and it's very hard to explain. But at the heart of these books is the characters. They are so morally gray. One of my favorite characters is Gladka. He is literally a torturer and a murderer. That is his job, and you should not be rooting for him, but Abercrombie has made me root for this man, and he is absolutely hilarious. He's all twisted and gnarled over. His appearance is even gross because he was basically a prisoner of war and he was tortured and beat up, so he walks with a limp. His face is all jacked up. His one eye leaks all the time because it's all messed up, and yet I somehow love this character. He can be so mean and rude, but the way that he goes about it, it's hilarious. Abercrombie's humor in his books, I say it all the time, is literally the best that I've ever read. And then every now and then you think that there might be like a little sliver of heart or emotions, and you can't be sure if that's true or not. It's just such a journey with these characters. Then you have another character like Giselle, who is insufferable in the beginning, just pompous, spoiled, selfish, thinks that everything should just be handed to him. And then as you move through these books, you somehow start feeling bad for him. I mean, it's a whole thing. And then you have Logan Ninefingers, who is like this brutish warrior, also murderer, who is clearly suffering from PTSD, and I think he is trying to do better in life, but then things like set him off and he's a whole nother beast going on. So it's just, these books are so amazing, and I just want everyone to read them. It's really, truly the characters in these books, and the audiobook was one of the best narrated books that I've ever listened to in my entire life, and I am very excited because I have a feeling if everyone's reviews are accurate that the Age of Madness, which is the second trilogy in the First Law world, will possibly knock this off of my top 10. So we will see, but as of now, First Law Trilogy, my number 2 fantasy series of all time. And coming in as my number 1 favorite fantasy series of all time is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Another grimdark fantasy series. I've said this before, this is not a complete series, but if George R.R. Martin does not write another book for this series, I am still forever grateful that these books exist, that there is a world such as Westeros that I can get lost in. It is truly a gift. And like I said, I'm totally fine. I hope that that's not the case, but if it's never finished, I am still happy that I got to experience this. This is set in a very violent world of politics and different houses trying to gain the Iron Throne. You have characters that are struggling with loyalty, morality, trauma, anger issues, and different disabilities. There are multiple POVs in this series. You literally cannot think that any of your favorite characters are safe from being taken out. Martin will definitely kill someone that you are absolutely expecting to see through the entire series. Full of morally gray characters, characters that I will always have inside of my heart, that I will always remember. One of them is the Hound. He is this ginormous man that is full of anger issues, but for some reason, I just absolutely loved his character and the way he treated another character, Sansa, and the way he was written. I just found myself rooting for him. Then you have Eddard Stark, who is full of loyalty and being pulled in 2 directions of loyalty to the crown and loyalty to his family. Jon Snow, a bastard who has taken the black and gone to the Night's Watch on the wall that protects this world from wildlings and everything else that they are afraid of over the wall, which, I mean, just the imagination of Martin to come up with these things and this vast world that he's created. It's incredible to me. It is absolutely incredible. And then another favorite character of mine is Tyrion. He is this brilliant imp, and his mind and the one-liners that he comes up with is just absolutely incredible. And then you have characters like Joffrey that, once again, you want to jump through the page and just dropkick because they are so deplorable. I could literally sit down and talk about this series for hours. If I'm anywhere and I hear someone even mention Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire, you will be guaranteed to have a very long conversation with this introvert because I literally could go on forever. But I do not know of any series that could possibly top this, but I am definitely excited to go on the journey and find more series to add to my top 10 of all time. If you're wondering, where's Lord of the Rings? Malazan or Malazan, however you say it. Stormlight Archives, things that you've seen on a lot of other people's lists. Well, Lord of the Rings, I love that series, but it's very dense and not my favorite. Stormlight Archives, I am currently in the middle of, well, I just started The Way of Kings. I'm not in the middle of it, but I am currently reading it. Also, The Wheel of Time, also another big one. I DNF'd it because I found it extremely boring. And for Malazan, however you say it, I do plan to read that at some point. It is on my TBR, along with a bunch of other amazing fantasy series. So this list will definitely evolve over time. Please let me know down below, what is your favorite fantasy series of all time? I would absolutely love to know which series that are your favorites that I may not have mentioned that you feel like I should prioritize. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by. I truly appreciate it. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon. See ya.